Hey, welcome back to Mystic Messages. Today's inspired message from the divine is learning how to increase your discernment. Now, that might sound a little difficult for some, but if you remain open minded, I promise I will somehow be able to share this ability with all of you. My connection with the divine is not specifically special for me or for people like me. As a matter of fact, we all have the ability to do it. And that's by using our discernment, being able to take time to quiet ourselves down to hear the voice of whoever you perceive God to be. It doesn't matter who that is, as long as it's someone of the light who's for the good of all, including yourself and your highest and best good. Okay? What the divine would like those who might be having difficulty with believing this new wave of spirituality that's encompassing the earth. Uh, you're just asked to keep faith and have an open mind and really start to understand that just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because you haven't seen evil personally doesn't mean there isn't a darker side of the universe. Just because you might have not been affected by somebody's negativity or spell work doesn't mean that those things don't exist. And just say thank God if you never had to experience them purposely, because they're not fun. And imagine being afflicted by something and not being able to share with anyone because of fear of being called crazy or strange or whatever, because someone else didn't have the ability to see it. You know, keep in mind that even before germs were visible to the eye through the telescope, uh, we weren't able to see them. But yet somehow, in the infinite wisdom of the divine, he placed information inside certain people to let us understand that germs did exist. Even though we couldn't see them, they did exist and they did cause a problem. And you can look at it from those easy terms. It should be a little clearer to you now that just because we don't see or experience something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's real. And today's message is about, uh, you know, strengthening discernment, strengthening your ability to discern what is of God and what isn't from God, what is from the light and what is from the dark. Now we do have both. And the great creator provided everyone with free will. You can choose the light, you can choose the dark. It's up to you. It's totally your choice. No one's going to stop you. It's even like my videos, perfect example. What I do here, I do with the intention of my highest good and for the highest good of all who might listen to these messages. Now, they don't come from me, they are inspired by a higher power through me, which I am then being asked to uh, communicate to others who are willing to listen. Now, I don't ask that everybody believe everything I say. If there's anything that I put out there, quote or whatnot, I will paste any quote of something or somebody in the uh, description box for you to read. Again, you don't have to take my word for it, and I encourage you to look things up for yourself or just go within yourself, look into your own discernment, learn to discover what is of the light and what is of the dark. Perfect example. There was a very prominent figure out there, and I won't mention their name, but I will put something in the description box quoted from them. This very person was quoted as saying, if you want to become rich, create a church or a religion. Now, this person went on to create one of the largest, uh, what some may consider a church in our society and the world today, and became a multi-billionaire while doing things that weren't exactly of the light. Okay, a lot of their religion is based on fear, like many are, and very cult-like, like many religions are, where you're expected to follow a certain rule, pay money to attend, or you get thrown out. Uh, all things that had nothing to do with God. Okay, especially let's look at Catholic churches for an example, or Christian churches in general. They go around with crosses around their neck, and they promote, uh, or should I say, spew Bible texts uh, ad nauseum, and they use it as a weapon. And in my opinion, if you look at it logically, the Bible has been distorted by man's hands for so many years, including parts that were taken out. If this is supposed to be the divine word of God, why were men able to distort it for their own benefit or take parts out that they don't want you to read? That's what makes me question it. Okay. Those very same religions mocked older religious texts, stating that it was too outlandish or too unbelievable. Again, that is not what Jesus taught. Didn't teach anyone to mock anyone. And basically, this was a tactic that was used or learned by not all, but some leaders of the Christian faith in order to gain popularity, in order to gain money, in order to gain a never ending supply of money by making people fearful, by telling them if they don't give money, God won't love them. It's not true. Or by telling them if they don't go to a priest and confess their sins, they're going to go to hell. Or if they loved a certain way, they were going to hell. God made everything and everyone, including all different types of people out there. And they're all loved in each and every way, and each has a purpose. The thought of the Catholic Church brings to mind my own experience in my 13 years of Catholic school. When I was in high school, my graduating year, the final year, there was some new outrageous course that was added to the curriculum that none of us were able to pass. And we were all trying to figure out how we're going to pass this thing so we can graduate and get out of high school and move on to the next level. Well, the teacher at the time, a priest who was also accused of abusive behavior, along with many of the other instructors that I had, unbelievably enough, uh, told us if we wanted to pass this class, we had to bring him a bottle of Johnny Walker Black, uh, uh, black label liquor for him to drink because this was his favorite bottle of liquor, what have you. Ironically, he was not only encouraging us to do something that was against the Catholic faith, which would have been, pressuring us into stealing this bottle from our parents' liquor cabinet, or wherever else we were going to have to get this from. And being underage, we couldn't purchase it anywhere, and he knew that. But the sick thing is that we all brought this bottle into school, and we did all pass. He kept up his part of the bargain and passed us all. But what I found more strange was that those bottles filled the windowsills of his classroom for the entire day. And I can't tell you how many teachers passed by and didn't even question what this man was doing with all these bottles of liquor on his windowsill. Okay? In a high school, out of all places. Okay? Another example of, abusive Christian behavior, or a lie in order to elevate her own status, would be Anita Bryant. She made it her life's work to go against gay people, maligning them, using children as the scapegoat. Okay, creating stories that gay people wanted to indoctrinate the children, and wanted to take your kids, and wanted to. This is so far fetched and untrue and sick. But yet she called herself a Christian. And she had the nerve to say that she loved gay people, but she didn't want them to have to be able to work. She wanted them to keep their lives in the closet. They were subhuman beings, according to her. She actually clumped them in with criminals and prostitutes, which, again, being a Christian, she shouldn't be clumping anybody in with anything. And if she really followed the true Christ consciousness faith, she would love everyone and not try to harm them. But she did this for her own personal gain. Again, another false prophet. You know, she was famous for saying, even though something might look nice and benign on the surface, doesn't mean it is. Ironically, she was talking about herself in that quote. You know, think about that for a second. Today I heard something disturbing on a YouTube news channel that I watch, who actually uh, puts the correct news out there, because unfortunately we can't trust any other news out there since it's all being manipulated by the powers that be for the truth actually coming out. And she was discussing the war in Gaza and the plight that those people were going through. And she actually was able to pull up a quote from some prominent Jewish religious figure, uh, basically stating that all these people in that area should be killed and starved to death. Now, this is coming from a religious leader, okay? It might not be Christ consciousness, but this is coming from a Jewish man, okay, who I'm sure will have heard or has probably repeated the story of the Holocaust, which again was a horrible, terrible thing. But instead of learning from that, he's looking to inflict the same type of pain onto another group of people, to annihilate a group of people from off of the face of the earth. And for what? For political power, for money, to assist other evil political figures with money from creating some type of a property or resort on that land. Again, what would your discernment say about that? Is this a person of God, claims to be a faith, but yet spews horrible things? Not cool, not from God, you know? And these very people, these very leaders, these religious figures, including my ones that I ran into in my personal life, all wanted to force their opinion on you. Again, not from God. You know, Christians have been famous for forcing their opinion for years. The Catholics beat it into you on a daily basis. I actually had an argument with a nun one time because she refused to admit that animals had souls, which is something I always knew. She fought with me, a third grader, telling me that I was wrong. Animals just die and go nowhere. If you think deep within yourself, we know that's not true. Anybody who has ever loved a pet, or any animal for that matter, knows that those individuals have souls. And they have, in my opinion, elevated souls, which are much better than people. They are the embodiment of unconditional love. They are the embodiment of trust. They are the embodiment of loyalty. And if maybe we can learn to be a little more like animals instead of like people, we'd probably be in a better space. And you have to remember, when you see things that are incorrect or unjust, and whether you be Christian, Muslim, Catholic, uh, Jewish, what have you, when you sit among your own people and you allow them to spew garbage that you know isn't true, that you know isn't from a divine source, when you sit there and remain quiet, you are just as guilty as they are, unfortunately. Think about that for a second. If you're worried that they're not going to like you, why would you want a person like that in your life anyway? If you're worried that speaking up uh, to a prejudiced person who is a bigot because of somebody's uh, 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 sexual orientation, because of somebody's faith, because the color of somebody's skin, when you sit there and you allow other people to say things while you remain quiet, you are just as guilty. And if you're worried about them not liking you, again, why would you want to be liked by such a person? Because obviously, that is not a person of goodwill. That is not a person of the light. You don't have to take my word again, but think about it for yourself. Ask yourself these questions. I force nothing, I push nothing. Again, unlike many people who do the type of work I'm doing falsely to make money off of others, it's not from God. People who truly do this work know that the money that they will need in order to do God's work will be supplied by the divine. We don't know how it's going to come or from which way we'll receive it. We just know that it'll be there when we need it because God supplies those who are doing his work or her work with what they will need to get the job done. And eventually, all those who misuse God's word and mislead people and steal money from them will eventually be exposed. And that's what they fear most. Those very people who are going to try to malign people like myself fear their demise and their exposure. But the truth always comes out, and good always wins. Remember that. And we all have a choice. Whatever side that is, we all have a choice to do the correct thing. And it's never too late. It's what we do now. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Take care.